World Economic Forum, the WHO, they rely on massive inflows of money. Gates Foundation, Wellcome Trust, Rockefeller Foundation. The suppliers are these vaccine companies. There's easily now, 24 vaccine companies. They are getting rich contracts. Remember, the companies used to have to make their own products. Now governments are just pouring money into them.
Let's go. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever in the world you are. Welcome to the Matt Kim podcast. We have a special guest today, and I just want to lay it out there. The last time we had the renowned, the super credible, the world famous Dr. Peter McCullough on the show, I got that video removed off of YouTube. I think did we last 40 minutes, Will? Not even 40 minutes. And they said it was medical misinformation and that we were being dangerous. And then I got suspended for 2 weeks. And it's bullshit because Dr. Peter McCullough is one of the most heavily cited people in the world on the topic of virology and of vaccines and etc. And most people would say, no, we're not going to interview Peter McCullough again, Dr. Peter McCullough again, because we need to protect our channel. I vehemently disagree. I think this is more proof that we need to have people like Dr. Peter McCullough on because things are going on in this world. I believe in free speech. I believe in medical freedom. I believe that people need proper information from all sides to make their own decision. And I do not like the government showing up with the government gun and saying, you have to believe us, you have to comply, you cannot see the other viewpoint. I think that is very un-American, very dangerous to society. And saying that, Dr. Peter McCullough, thank you so much for being on the show.
Well, Matt, I can't believe you had me back after that incredible strike. YouTube basically sent an intercontinental ballistic missile right at the Matt attack. YouTube tried to take you down, and I saw you kind of fight it off. And not only did you survive, but you got stronger. I told all my friends, follow Matt. It's the Matt attack.
Well, thank you so much for Dr. McCullough for coming on, because trending in the news, and this is the reason I reached out, and I'm going to give you my quick reaction that I had, and maybe you can correct where I'm wrong, maybe fill in some gaps, and help me kind of understand it better. Because last week, the very first day, very first official day of Trump's day in office, the very first day, he holds a press conference. And again, this is not the third day, the fourth day. This is not the third press conference. The very first press conference of his very first official day of work. He has his press conference, and next to him are Larry Ellison and Sam Altman and Masho. But I don't really know how Masho fits into this, so I kind of leave him out for now. But Larry Ellison and Sam Altman, who are these transhumanist technology guys that believe in mass surveillance, and he's like, we're going to do a $500 billion program with them. We're going to call it Project Stargate, which is such a weird thing because Project Stargate is this secret CIA program that did it. We're going to call it Project Stargate, and we're going to create data centers all over the country. We're going to start tracking people's biometrics, and we're going to create 48-hour mRNA, AI-driven mRNA vaccines to solve cancer. And I'm like, I don't like this at all. Something is definitely wrong here. I don't trust the people he's on stage with. I don't like the fact that Trump has never apologized or recognized the fact that the first round of mRNA vaccines had a huge problem. And if you can't recognize that the first round had a problem, how can I possibly trust you for the second round? This is my gut reaction. I was furious. I was mad. And people are like, Matt, you need to trust the program. This is different this time. This is a huge development. And I said, I need to talk to Dr. McCullough because you're the only person in this field that I know that I trust. So thank you for coming on. Maybe you can help. Am I wrong? Am I crazy? Or maybe fill in some gaps. I'm sorry. Ranting. I'm thinking about it gets me so mad. Okay, but maybe you can help fill in context for me.
Well, Matt, ever since you joined the health freedom community, you were this, prior to COVID, you were this kind of cool podcaster. You appealed to so many young people on all the platforms. You have your kind of signature way of presenting things. And I think actually, you're a crackerjack investigative journalists, which is really what we need today. But you're clearly part of this health freedom movement. And all the health freedom movement people were just saying, "Oh my God, here's Trump and messenger RNA vaccines." But man, I wonder how many people said, "Listen, give it to me right now, Larry Ellison. Give me a shot." Now, Matt, you have to admit, didn't Larry Ellison look a little creepy?
Something about that guy.
It almost looks like a fake mustache or something. I don't know. But seriously, Matt, I'm an internist, I'm a cardiologist, I take care of cancer patients. We should never have a tech guy. Now, I researched it. Larry Ellison did a semester of pre-med at University of Illinois. A semester.
Credible.
We should never have a tech guy try to explain something like cancer. We should always be presented by qualified oncologists. It's a very complicated space. I understand the idea about wanting U.S. investment in AI, that we're in a technology race with China, and I understand that. And there are AI applications in medicine. I can tell you, I need AI to go fetch a bunch of medical records in different systems, to synthesize everything. We need AI to read all the CAT scans and PET scans and ultrasounds and integrate everything regarding stage of cancer, to review the histopathology and the cellular markers, cell surface markers, kinases, and genetics. It's a massive amount of information. We need AI to integrate this. And AI could help us best understand what tumors we can just remove by surgery for cure, which ones need radiation additionally or chemotherapy. And it's possible that AI could even help develop new treatments like safe small molecules, peptides, monoclonal antibodies, and others. But it would be very unlikely that you skip all of that. And what Larry Ellison says is you jump to a messenger RNA vaccine. I think that's very unlikely, because right now the messenger RNA vaccines, and Moderna's testing one, cannot be standalone therapy. They're used in addition to what's called checkpoint inhibitors. So out on my Substack today, Courageous Discourse, I have a whole article on that, where I said, listen, 38% of cancers hide from the immune system through what's called immune checkpoints. And so we actually have to expose the cancer with a checkpoint inhibitor like Merck's Keytruda, and then you could use a vaccine to see if you can actually have the immune system attack the cancer. It's only partially effective, and the checkpoint inhibitors are super toxic. So it's not like you're going to get a vaccine only in 48 hours. You'd have a vaccine combined with very toxic combination chemotherapy, mainly given to people at the end stages of cancer.
If the vaccine creates, or if the cure creates other side effects, then I'm sure they will come up with other pharmaceuticals and other drugs to help cure those new side effects. Isn't this how the system works? You create a problem and you solve it, and then you create more solutions to the problem that you solved, and then it's just a never-ending cycle. Can't we just make people healthier generally and just prevent it from happening, rather than constantly chasing our tail and creating cures for all these diseases that we create? It's like bizarre.
Let me give you a concrete example. I've been working on this, Matt. Now, I'm a conventional, regular medicine doctor, but ever since the COVID and ever since the vaccines, we are seeing record numbers of blood clots. I can't tell you how many patients in the office I see with blood clots. My favorite ESPN announcer, Kirk Herbstreit, for college football, he has COVID, long COVID, takes the shots, have blood clots. My favorite weatherman, Al Roker, he has COVID, he takes the shots, he gets blood clots. And it just keeps going and going. Lauren Boebert, Republican congresswoman, I don't know if she took the shots or not. I bet she didn't, but she gets blood clots that have to be pulled out of her legs. I see this all the time now. The embalmers are reporting record numbers of rubbery, huge blood clots. And I'm seeing this in my practice, both from COVID and from the vaccines. Well, what's our response? Blood thinners. And the novel blood thinners like Xarelto, Eliquis, and Pradaxa, they're very expensive, or the inexpensive blood thinners, warfarin, but that takes monitoring and has some dangers to it. What's the solution? Solution is McCullough protocol, base spike protein detoxification, and that's the combined use of 3 natural products: nattokinase, bromelain, and curcumin. You can buy these over the counter. They can be combined at the wellness company. I'm corporate officer there, the chief scientific officer. We combine an ultimate spike detox. It's a very affordable way to get all 3. But here's a natural supplement that's a form of a blood clot dissolver blood thinner that you can take, in a sense, to detoxify from the vaccine and COVID spike protein and not end up with a blood clot. Because, Matt, you and I could end up with a blood clot just from COVID alone.
And we kind of touched on this last time, although, again, many people probably didn't get the chance to see it. We talked about this last time, is the idea of shedding. Is that still a thing, by the way?
Yeah, recent study has come out on this, Hooker and all, and the world's expert, Helene Benoun from France, I've had on my show, Matt. It's real. Shedding is real. We're getting some exposure, certainly of the spike protein, maybe messenger RNA, from freshly vaccinated people or people who just, over time have high circulating spike protein levels in their bloodstream and in their tissues. It comes through exosomes, which are inhaled phospholipid packets. They're exhaled and inhaled. So, I think that's a level of exposure. I checked my blood test for antibodies against the spike protein, and I was shocked at how my levels were. And I didn't take the vaccines. Matt, have you checked your blood test level?
No, I haven't. How do you know how to do that?
Yeah, ask your doctor for the LabCorp extended range spike protein antibody assay. It's done by a company called Roche. It's a Roche Alexis assay. And the normal is less than 0.8 units per ml. But I can tell you, virtually everybody has had COVID now. So it's 0 to 1,000 is low risk. And then progressively over 1,000 has been related to symptoms of long COVID, vaccine syndromes like blood clots and myocarditis. And I think it's an impetus to go on these natural supplements, detoxification. You go on Amazon, you can buy these. These are very inexpensive. And I think everybody should play it safe and take nattokinase, bromelain, and curcumin. People say for how long? And clinically I recommend a year, but if well tolerated, continue it indefinitely. You know why? Because of shedding. Even if we're not getting COVID over and over again, we're getting exposed to a lot of people who took the shots.
Oh, okay. Because in my mind, for the last 6 months to a year, at least 6 months, the idea of COVID is like so beyond me. If someone has, I don't even care anymore. Like we're so normalized to it. There's like no fear in it. And the worst case scenario, most people are like, oh, I got COVID, and they go home for 2 or 3 days. They feel sick, and then everyone's back, right? There's no more waiting. There's just like, as soon as you feel better, people are out back on the road, just like you would for the flu or the cold or anything else. People treat it the same. Mm-hmm. Should we still be treating it the same?
Yeah, it's like the common cold. The key thing, Matt, is if you've had COVID before, if you have a well-documented case of COVID, you're good. It's like the common cold. I don't even use any tests anymore. The best prevention, Matt, is using nasal sprays and gargles. Now, I noticed today you're a little bit congested. You really want to use a nasal spray twice a day. Like the one I use today is Clear, Xlear. And it's xylitol, grapefruit seed extract. These are natural products. And spray it up the nose, sniff it back, and spit it out, and then gargle. I'll gargle with scope or Listerine or colloidal silver gargle or peroxide, whatever I have, and twice a day. Because when you get COVID or a cold, the virus is in your nose for 5 days before you really know it. And you have to clear it out. You have to zap it a little bit so your body's immune system can fight off a smaller population of the viral particles. You just can't go day by day and just let a population of viral particles multiply in your nose. By the time you get a sore throat, which is the lymphatic drainage from the nose to the throat, by the time you have a sore throat, you've had the virus in your nose for about 5 days, 5 to 7 days. So, Matt, this was so bad that I was sick every month during the pandemic because I was seeing so many patients and I was traveling, I was giving a lot of lectures, and I finally got my act together. And I'd use the nasal spray religiously at Calvary Chapel in San Jose. I'm on the road a lot, on airplanes. Every time I get off, I do a couple squirts of the nasal spray. And Matt, I'm proud to tell you, I've had 7 months now, 0 colds or viral illnesses.
Huh. I need to do that because I have my daughter is 2.5 years old. And because of that, I'm around a lot of really young children these days. Birthday parties.
Oh, yeah.
Baby gyms and things like this. And I went from never getting sick to I'm just constantly getting sick, just like 24 hours at a time. Because I'm just taking all those germs and the little kid walks by, coughs in my face, keeps on walking away. It's like you just want to shake them, but you can't because they're not your kid.
Yeah, you need to get, I think the best tolerated one is called Clear, Xlear. It's only like $6 or $8 at CVS or Walgreens or Amazon. Another one, wellness company, we have Immune Mist. That's a saline and iodine. Another product is Betadine or Neomed. There's a whole bunch of products out there, but get a nasal spray, get a companion gargle, and do it twice a day. It's the smartest thing. So I finally got my act. Don't do it just as needed. Now, there's a recent study published in Lancet Respiratory Diseases. It's called the Immune Defense Study. And it's a huge study of about 15,000 people done in the UK. And they just did the nasal sprays on demand, meaning when you thought someone sneezed on you or you thought you're coming down with it. And when you do that, it reduces the chances of getting a cold by a little bit, like a 20% reduction. If you really want to avoid the colds altogether, you've got to do it every day.
I totally took notes on that. I'm gonna go get some today, because again, I'm not a person that gets sick. And the last 6 months, my daughter going everywhere and being around all the kids and these little kid playgrounds and all this stuff, it's just constant.
Oh, Matt, another thing that will make you sick, and this happened to me, is taking annual influenza vaccines or flu shots. I took 40 flu shots over the years because I had to. I was on medical staff and they had a requirement. And every year I got a series of colds. Now I reported on my Substack, there'd been a randomized trial showing that if you take the flu shot, it makes you more likely to get the common cold.
Huh. Again, okay. We're seeing this pattern because at this point we're at pattern, right? It's not a coincidence, it's not a trend. I mean, we're at full pattern now. Is that they come out with these vaccines or they come out with these shots like the flu shot or whatever else. And it doesn't do what it's supposed to do. And if anything, it makes you sicker. We're seeing this over and over and over again. What kind of accountability is there? Or how do we why is there no way to break free from this kind of doom cycle that we feel like we're stuck in?
Well, it happens with vaccines, Matt, in the United States, because there's liability protection for the vaccine manufacturers. It's called the Vaccine Injury Compensation Act from 1986. So if you take a vaccine and there's a side effect, there's nothing you can do. You can't sue the manufacturer. And so if we restore liability, if we actually get rid of that 1986 act that was written by HHS and Congress under President Reagan, if we get rid of that, then I bet a bunch of these products would come off the market because the companies know they're not safe enough.
And isn't that funny? Because, in the beginning they called it a COVID vaccine, and then we found out that it doesn't prevent you from getting COVID. So then they just redefined what vaccine means. But because they call it a vaccine, they have the liability, which is why why they just redefine vaccine. It's this. No,
they redefine vaccine. Matt, you were right at the first part of that. They redefined the COVID. They redefined vaccine because the COVID vaccines weren't working like effective vaccines. Now, all vaccines are free of any liability since 1986. So companies want to call products vaccines. The Pfizer and Moderna are better characterized as gene transfer technology products, just like Janssen and AstraZeneca. The only real vaccine that's an antigen-based traditional vaccine among the group is Novavax, which, by the way, is the safest of the COVID vaccines. And you never hear our government agencies talking about Novavax. Never. It's
Where do you even find that?
It's available. You go to CVS and Walgreens, and if you want a COVID shot, you could say, I want a Novavax vaccine. Now, I don't advise it,
Yeah.
but
But you could.
if I had a gun to my head, I wouldn't sign up for Pfizer or Moderna. Now, it turns out that Moderna, in the published studies, is the most dangerous vaccine. Moderna, then Pfizer, then Janssen, and then Novavax in that order.
So they say that Moderna is the most dangerous of the bunch. And
Yeah.
Moderna is who is working with Larry Ellison on this project?
Right. So Moderna is making, and not only that, but listen to this, our government invested over $500 million in Moderna to make bird flu vaccines.
And didn't they just... Am I making this up? Well, did Trump just say that that the CDC is no longer going to track bird flu cases?
Not sure.
I think that just happened yesterday or the day before. Is that they're going to stop tracking bird flu cases? Is that bird flu even a thing too? What is bird flu?
They're testing the animals with PCR testing. You know how messy it is to wrestle down a chicken and try to stuff a Q-tip in their... I mean, come on, Matt, what a messy job it is to do PCR testing on chickens or cattle and all the goo and everything else. The bottom line is bird flu is very mild. The animals get through it. Humans get through it. We need natural immunity. We have treatment. The nasal sprays and gargles work really good. Even eye drops are useful there. And then we've got 4 antivirals, 2 oral ones, 1 IV, and 1 nebulized. So, we don't need a vaccine for bird flu, but yet our government invested over $500 million in Moderna. Listen, if Moderna wants to make a bird flu vaccine on their own money, that's their choice. But now a government should not pay drug companies to create products. They have to create their own products based on market need and quality and safety. So our government investing, the European Commission has already bought the existing bird flu vaccine called CSL, Seqirus antigen-based vaccine. People died with that vaccine in the normal volunteer human trials. Can you imagine you sign up to be a normal volunteer in a bird flu vaccine trial and you die? I mean, 10 people died in that study. There's no way that taking shots for bird flu should ever be considered.
I'm thinking, if they are sticking the PCR swabs up chickens' noses, it means they just have a lot of those that they've ordered over the last few years. They thought they would need more. They needed, like, why do we do these? Let's just test the chickens.
Well, Matt, you know what the response is? What's called the biosecurity response is to kill all the normal chickens. So, I went to the bird flu summit at University of Arkansas. They think maybe 10,000 birds have died of bird flu. Maybe. And birds can die of other things too. But they've intentionally killed 10 million healthy chickens as what's called a biosecurity measure. They're trying to, quote, eradicate it. It's hopeless because bird flu is in mallard ducks and they're flying between all the farms and they keep reinfecting the farms. So all this mass killing of poultry is just causing a rise in the cost of eggs and chicken. And it's hopeless because the mallard ducks are spreading this. And in a paper that McCullough Foundation has published in the journal Poultry and Wildlife Sciences, we have identified that the cause of the current strain of bird flu is gain-of-function research done at the USDA Poultry Research Center in Athens, Georgia, where they got it to transmit from mallard duck to mallard duck. So that's what happened. So this is a man-made created problem.
Again?
Yes.
Oh, okay. So we were testing...
I mean, Matt, did you hear about bird flu 15 years ago? No. I mean, this is what's going on now. Every threat that we see is probably going to come from a biolab.
So we were testing bird flu and figuring out how to make it more transmittable
Right.
from duck to mallard, and somehow it figured it out. It leaks out into the world, and it's a small case of people. But for that small case of the birds and for birds, we are killing a huge segment of our chickens,
Right.
creating the cost of chickens to go up, the cost of eggs to go up, for there to be a chicken and egg shortage in the country, and the price of eggs are going up, obviously. And the reality is that it's for a minority of birds that was created in a lab using gain of function.
And Matt, all that needs to happen. Listen, if you look outside, mallard ducks are common. They're not dead, in ponds anywhere. So they're gaining natural immunity. We should just allow nature to get natural immunity, and this is going to be over with. In a paper by Garg and colleagues, New England Journal of Medicine, there's about 63 human cases in the United States, and in that paper, it's all mild. Matter of fact, most of the humans get it during this culling procedure where they're trying to intentionally, suffocate the chickens or whatever and kill them. That's if we just let the chickens alone, the humans wouldn't get bird flu and the chickens wouldn't get. Now, the one fatal case that happened is an older man in Louisiana, and we don't have any proof that he actually died of bird flu. Very few details. He wasn't working in a chicken farm. He had some dead birds in his backyard and had a mutated strain. So as we sit here today, this entire bird flu panic, UK just announced a countrywide emergency. California's announced an emergency. It's completely man-made, and the emergency declarations are essentially fabricated.
63 people got it. Most of them got it by trying to strangle the birds that had it. This is wild. I can't believe that's a real thing, by the way.
Matt, you can't make this up. And now the answer, according to the U.S. government, they put $500 million behind this, is a bird flu vaccine. Now, is anybody in your family and friend circle going to line up for a messenger RNA bird flu vaccine?
Well, the answer is to create $500 million to create a mRNA bird flu vaccine, and also to kill a huge segment of the chickens. Who does this benefit? It doesn't benefit me. It doesn't benefit you. Well, maybe you, because a lot of people are going to come to you like, hey, Dr. Peter, what's going on? But it really doesn't benefit humanity. It doesn't benefit the populace. It benefits Moderna, maybe their shareholders, maybe people involved in the gain of function research. But who else does this benefit? Why do we keep on allowing it? Sorry, I'm every time I think about this stuff, I get so frustrated because.
But Matt, in my book, Courage to Face COVID-19, we outline a Bio-Pharmaceutical Complex. Very important. The World Economic Forum, the WHO, they rely on massive inflows of money. Gates Foundation, Wellcome Trust, Rockefeller Foundation. The suppliers are these vaccine companies. There's easily now, 24 vaccine companies. They are getting rich contracts. Remember, the companies used to have to make their own products. Now governments are just pouring money into them, and then they respond to these government contracts. And so there's no marketing, there's no sales, there's no competitive nature to the business. This is just a massive flow of money. And even if we don't use the vaccines, the companies keep the money.
I'm thinking about recently we found out that Dr. Fauci was pardoned by the Biden administration on the last day. Maybe a quick reaction on that. What do you think about that one?
The first thing people say is a preemptive pardon. He must have committed crimes. Otherwise, a preemptive pardon would not be needed, right? So an innocent man doesn't need a preemptive pardon. So what crimes could Fauci have created or committed? And the two outlined in my book are fraud that he was part of a group that deceived the country, deceived the world, and then mass negligent homicide by two mechanisms. One, people died of COVID-19 because early treatments like McCullough protocol was suppressed. There's ample evidence that the government worked to suppress our research, our innovation, and our publications. And then people died unnecessarily from unsafe and ineffective vaccines. So, it's a 10-year span of time. We know that it goes back to 2014. 2014 was the Obama moratorium on gain-of-function research funding. That was lifted by Trump, by the way, in 2017. So it spans that period of time. Maybe he needed to cover back to that Obama ban on gain-of-function research spending because his agency funded the creation of SARS-CoV-2. But Fauci's in a circle with Dr. Ralph Barrick at the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, Dr. Peter Daszak, who's now HHS debarred, president of the EcoHealth Alliance, and Dr. Xingling Li, the bat lady in Wuhan. And in the papers that Barrick and Menachery published, they actually just fully describe the creation of primordial SARS-CoV-2 in Nature Medicine in 2015 and Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences in 2016, where they call it a Wuhan Institute of Virology, SARS-like CoV-1, coronavirus 1, poised for human emergence. And in those papers, they say it's gain-of-function research and that it started before the Obama ban on gain-of-function research. They thank the EcoHealth Alliance for shuttling the U.S. plans to create COVID to China, and they thank the Chinese for doing the work. It's all memorialized in these two manuscripts. So I think Fauci needed cover for these two manuscripts, but Barrick wasn't given a pardon. Peter Daszak wasn't. Many others involved here. David Morin's Fauci's understudy, and importantly, the personnel at the Rocky Mountain Biolab in Hamilton, Montana. That's a U.S. asset. It's got like 30 some buildings. It's a huge facility in Montana. It's a biological threat laboratory. And in a paper in 2018, they actually had the primordial COVID virus in Montana in that lab, and they were trying to get it to transmit from bat to bat. It looks like they were trying to create a bat vaccine, a spreading bat vaccine. That's from a 2018 paper. So I'm just reporting, Matt, the peer-reviewed literature. This is stuff that's readily available and out there. A good book written by Jim Haslam, an investigative reporter on this, has pieced it together. So we actually had the COVID-19 virus in the United States in Barrick's lab and in Fauci's Hamilton, Montana lab, probably from 2010 through 2018. But the final version of it was released from Wuhan. And by the way, Matt, I don't know if you saw this yesterday, even the CIA has come out now and said, COVID came out of the Wuhan lab.
Really? I laugh because it's so ridiculous. I saw that on the first day of the presidency, President Trump withdrew from the WHO. And initially, I thought that was amazing because obviously, with everything going on, the people's trust in WHO is probably at the lowest it's ever been. But then in a follow-up interview, it sounded like he's considering going back, and it was not. He didn't leave because of the disagreement in kind of the methods and how the WHO acts, but really it's because he feels though the United States is paying too much while China is paying too low. So the goal is to get WHO to reduce the amount that the United States buys into or pays into, and then it sounds like he's going to join again. I don't know. What do you think about that?
Greatly concerning. It looks like Trump doesn't get it. The problem, what's Trump worried about? I think our all-in cost for WHO is $6.8 billion. We're hemorrhaging billions of dollars to these, tens of billions of dollars to these worldwide conflicts. Trump wanted, quote, a better deal. The problem here is that the WHO has become a behemoth. It's got many tens of thousands of employees. They have over 140 national focal points, NFPs. There's one in Washington, D.C., right down from where Trump is called PAHO, the Pan American Health Organization. The national focal points is how the WHO coordinated the messages. So do you remember during the pandemic where there would be a message that went out in the press all at once on the same day where they were saying the same thing? Did you see these montages of where everyone, and it was worldwide, Matt. So if it was going on here, it was going on in the Philippines and in Polynesia, Australia, Russia. How they did it is they did it through national focal points. So here's one, I'm sure you recognize this one. No one is safe. And it went out everywhere. No one is safe. No one is safe. That was one of the early ones. Later on, there was one, crisis of the unvaccinated.
Oh.
And that one came out everywhere. That was coordinated through WHO. I interviewed Lisa Myra, an investigative attorney in Toronto, and she had nailed this one. So the WHO deceived us on this messaging. Remember when the outbreak occurred in Wuhan, the WHO was supposed to do outbreak investigation. So the WHO reached out to the White House Task Force, and one of my contemporaries, he went to medical school where I went as Admiral Brett Giroir. And so Brett selects 3 independent scientists from the United States to go to Wuhan. This is early in 2020 to investigate. The WHO says, no, we don't want those. We want Peter Daszak. So the WHO selected a guy who was one of the creators of SARS-CoV-2. So Daszak had been to that lab dozens of times. Daszak had spent over $250,000 of U.S. taxpayer money flying first class from United States to Wuhan. So Daszak goes over there, and you can find this, anywhere on the internet. There's all kinds of, news pieces written up, and Daszak investigates. He goes, well, I don't know where this virus came from, but it definitely wasn't the lab. So the WHO actively participated in the cover-up of the lab origins of SARS-CoV-2. And then, after that, the WHO actively suppressed early treatments, everything that worked from nasal sprays and gargles to hydroxychloroquine, ivermectin, all the drugs that worked. And then the WHO later on relentlessly promoted the vaccines. So the WHO on COVID was a disaster. And I think the capper, there was worldwide protests last year at the World Health Assembly in Geneva. This is amazing. And the reason why people were protesting is the WHO had a pandemic treaty alliance and international health regulations where they wanted binding authority over all plants, animals, and humans in the world. Meaning they could call the next lockdown, they could call, forced mass vaccination, they could shut down farms, reduce food supply, they could do anything they want to. The WHO had supreme power over the world. So people were saying, listen, get out of the WHO. This has become a behemoth or out of control. So when Trump, that first executive order, the WHO was one of the first 17 on day one. Everyone cheered. And then Trump goes, well, maybe I'll get back in the WHO. Everyone's like, here we are back to old Trump again. It's just, we just have to do better.
We have to do better because we know what happened. We know what. I feel like if we join the WHO and then you see what's going on with the AI mRNAs and you see what's going on with this flu vaccine and all the signals are there, all the dots are there, actually for anyone to connect if they want to. And we're in this place where we just don't want to think any longer. We've just decided as a population that we're just no longer going to think for ourselves. Critical thinking out the window. Let's just take everything at face value, which is what got us into the situation that we are today. Now let's just take everything at face value. I'm sure that everyone in power has our best interest at hand, which is crazy because never in the history of the world have the people in power always had the best interest of the people in hand. But this is where we are now. And I'm spinning in circles and I feel like I am the most skeptical I've ever been in my life. And I'm looking around and I feel like the people are most complicit they've ever been in their life. And I'm going, what's going on here? And you were one of the early adopters, and I'm going to just question everything, especially during COVID. That was not easy to do, by the way, because a lot of people were saying that you were dangerous, that you had to be removed from the internet. And when they removed you, people were almost cheering like it had to be done. And it's funny because the people that were on that side are doing the questioning now. And the people that were on your side then are the ones that are just complicit now. It's like we have this flip in society. And I'm having a really hard time these days putting it all together.
We're living through a mind-blowing reality. We really are. So it's not only the COVID controversy, but, building behind this has been this hyperbolic increase in the number of childhood vaccines. I mean, it is really built up. You have little kids now. And, I took all the vaccines. My kids took all the vaccines. But when I look back on it, early on in childhood, there was relatively few vaccines. Now, as you get older, to take, a childhood vaccine as you're older, there's less side effects. But when the baby is growing and the neurologic system is growing, and they get popped with a whole bunch of shots all together, there's a great risk. So at around 15 months, the kids get about 16 things all at once. And the published studies show that if a child goes home and gets sick with a febrile seizure, man, it can happen. About 3% of kids have febrile seizures. If a febrile seizure happens, the child has about a 40% chance of developing autism from that febrile seizure. That's been shown in a paper by Nicholson and colleagues. Now there's 5 studies showing the converse, that in today's world, if children take no vaccines whatsoever, recent paper out by Mawson in the journal Science, Public Health Policy and the Law, if the kids take no vaccines whatsoever, they're healthier. They're healthier. They have lower rates of asthma and atopic dermatitis and need for ear infections and lower rates of neuropsychiatric disorders like ADD and autism spectrum disorder and seizures. So this is not looking good, that this hyper-vaccination is linked to childhood illnesses.
And anytime I bring up kind of these issues that are going on, especially over the last week, everyone says, don't worry, once RFK gets sworn in and he gets confirmed, he's going to fix it. That's what everyone says. That's kind of the hope everyone has, is that RFK gets in and he's going to put a stop to all of this madness. I don't know. I don't see it, to be honest.
Why not? Why not?
Because this has not actually been his champion issue his entire life. He just became this, I don't like vaccines 6 months ago. There's no history for him to say he hasn't studied this. He's not been a part of his platform. It was just really popular 6 months ago. And it's kind of what made him become the person that he is and create this whole movement. But before that, there's no history of this. And all of a sudden he's going to show up and he's going to show up and he's going to change the entire way the medical system is done. I don't know. I'd like to believe that it's possible, but history means things. And I have not seen it yet. I don't know. What do you think? Do you think that there's a possibility?
Well, I'm supportive of RFK. I'm supportive. I know him personally. Once people dig in on vaccine safety, it's hard to turn a blind eye when you start to see this. I mean, no one knows the cause of autism, but autism is, when I was a kid, was 1 in 10,000. Now it's 1 in 36. And what the medical orthodoxy says is, we don't know the cause of autism, but it's definitely not the vaccines. Well, if you don't know the cause, how can you rule out something like, a massively increased childhood vaccine schedule and this observation regarding febrile seizures and this case conversion to autism? Robert F. Kennedy is someone who's concerned about consumer safety, and he's a content expert. He's someone who's studied the issues. Now, when you're Secretary of HHS, the last 2 were attorneys, Alex Azar and Javier Bashera, you're largely an administrator. Every day is just a series of meetings. All the people who have been selected to be around Kennedy are industry insiders, big pharma, big food. They're all carefully installed. So Kennedy may be sufficiently boxed in or just administratively tied up. None of these cabinet positions or even the president, they're not autocrats. It's not like Trump really can do exactly what he wants. So you pick the example. Trump says, we're pulling out of the World Health Organization. Somebody may have pulled him aside and said, listen, why don't you get out there and say we're going to rejoin? And he may have had to go out and say this. Remember, all people who take positions from the president and the cabinet, they're government workers. They're government employees. They should be our public servants. But instead, they're under the thumb. Look for, Matt, senior independent advisors who are not government employees, like Elon Musk, Vivek Ramaswamy, what have you. I think they're going to have a lot more influence than RFK, Trump, or any of the government employees.
And that's a little concerning because, again, I've been a little skeptical of RFK. Maybe puts me in the minority, but I don't know him as a politician or administrator or anything within government, so I have no basis to go on. You don't just blindly trust people. At least that's how I am. But I like the things that he has said in the past. And I like that they've created this Maha movement of people that are extremely questioning of what we eat, what we consume, what we put into our bodies. I think that is all very positive. My fear is that you make all these bold promises, you don't deliver, and then people lose faith in what can possibly be done. This is kind of my worry.
Matt, it could happen in Kennedy's case due to another factor you may not be considering. Anytime someone has run for president of the United States, they usually want to do it again. Almost always. So Kennedy, officially ran on the Democratic ticket, then the independent ticket. He really believes he could be an effective president of the United States. If he gets a cabinet position in HHS, that's if he gets it, he comes up for confirmation, by the way, Wednesday, January 29th. But if he gets confirmed and he's a cabinet member, the first thing he may think of is, listen, Trump's only got 4 years. I could run for president of the United States. And, Marco Rubio could consider the same thing. He actually tried to run for president of the United States. So watch anybody who is a presidential candidate potentially run again. Okay, so and as soon as somebody decides to run for a presidency, they're going to be much more in presidential politic mode than they will be on solving issues. You see what I mean? Because they're going to be trying to pick this popular stance or get votes from both sides. If there's any issue, try to play it on both sides because you're trying to get votes. That's how politics works.
Use the platform you have and the position that you have to gain support so that you can make another run later. I just want people that solve problems. Is that too much? Is that too hard to ask?
But Matt, it's I'm just conjecture. We'll see. Now, if Kennedy gets installed, he is going to be working through a lot. He's never led a major government organization before. He's never managed thousands of people. I think there's 17 sub agencies, and the prior people. Alex Azar, and by the way, Alex Azar ran HHS under Obama, and Trump kept him on. He is a lawyer, a lifetime insider. Same thing with Bashera. Bashera was in Congress. He's a lawyer running HHS. These guys know how the administration runs. Kennedy's not going to know that. It's going to take a long time for Kennedy to even meet the people who are heading up these sub-agencies, let alone tackle issues. It's going to take time. The same thing is true for all of the physicians selected. None of them have any experience in the areas that they're going to be trying to, be in charge of. So it's going to be it's going to be quite a challenge.
Yeah, I think that's really the message that I think people, especially talking about the change in administration, that people just need to understand. And we're starting to see it already. That during campaign season, President Trump said, day one, I'm going to do all these things. And people assume that that means change happens right away. But the reality is, if they're going to cut like Doge and they cut federal funding, this is a process that's going to take years. Because you have to identify, you have to move, there's processes, there are legislation that you have to pass, etc. When they said he's going to do the largest mass deportation ever, and it's going to start day one was like 200 people. In order to do 10 million people, which I question these days, in order to do 10 million people, it's going to take a long time. It takes time to figure it out. And I think Tom Homan came out yesterday and said, we are going to... It's going to be, he basically said it's going to be a slow burn. It's going to take time to figure this thing out. So, and possibly same with RFK. He wants to come in and change what we consume and what we eat. It's just going to take time.
Matt, there's something that could be quick, though. I know I subscribe to your analysis that all of these things happen much more slowly. The public wants change right now. I mean, everybody in the health freedom community every day thinks tomorrow something is going to change. Just as an example of slow to change, did you hear that they're going to eliminate red food dye? Did you hear that?
I did.
Yeah, but do you know when that actually happens?
When?
2027.
Wait, what?
Yeah,
is that...
it's not instantaneous, right?
Wait, every headline said that it was just banned and everyone celebrated like it's an immediate thing. It doesn't happen for 2 years?
Right, you have to read the details. Yeah, the food companies have 2 years to change to another red dye. So they're just going to change to another chemical. Yeah. So, people in the health freedom movement need to, like you, develop this sophistication. But let me give you hope for something that I think will have rapid change. Have you heard this one? Where DOGE, the Department of Government Efficiency, has advised that all government workers return to their physical offices.
Yeah.
Have you heard that?
Yes,
Well,
yes.
Matt, during the pandemic, I've been to Washington multiple times. So I've testified twice in the Senate, once in the House. I've given a speech in Lincoln Memorial. I've been there for the Federalist meetings and everything else. Every time I've gone to Washington so far in the last 5 years, it's empty. The hotels are empty. The streets are empty. The restaurants are empty. The House and the Senate buildings, empty. Normally, it used to be teeming with staffers and people in the media. Everything's empty, Matt. So you can imagine government workers have been out of Washington for years now. Their apartment leases are done. They've been on Zoom calls in their homes for years now. And you can imagine if they have to come back to Washington, get apartments, and show up in an office every day, they're not going to go. And I think gives us great hope that we're going to have a massive cut in government workers and expenses because people aren't going to come back to Washington.
It sounds like I need to buy a couple condos to rent out in Washington, D.C. because they're going to need somewhere to stay. This may be the best move of all of it.
Well, it's true. People got so comfortable working from home. You and I are probably in our homes right now. I have this segment of my day, then I'm going to go out. So when Klaus Schwab, who heads the World Economic Forum, when he wrote the book COVID-19, The Great Reset, and that was published like a couple months after the onset of the pandemic. So he was ready. Obviously, that was pre-written. He said that COVID-19 will be an opportunity for a great global reset. And one of the things that's changed is working from home. So many of my patients now and people I know, they work from home. So they have freedom to not have to go into an office. In fact, I listened to a great segment on a podcast recently about what's called digital nomads. Have you heard about this?
Yes.
Yeah. So the country that was being featured in this program that is very friendly to digital nomads is the country of Colombia. And and so what this means is if you work remotely, and it means you can live anywhere in the world. Colombia, as an example, has very favorable immigration, tax status, housing. In a sense, you can kind of learn, live there, maybe learn Spanish, do some travel for a couple years, and work digitally because you're a nomad. You can move around wherever you want to move. And so one thing I think that Klaus Schwab had right was the fact that I don't think people are going to go back to the conventional going into the office, mothers struggling to take their kids to daycare and all of this. I think that there's a new world that people have become used to, and that's working digitally.
It's funny you say that because it's something that I've been actually working on with some people, or some people that are working on it brought me in. The idea of network states and the fact that eventually we will have a digital country. We'll have digital countries, because if you travel the world and you're not tied to any one place and all your business and all your interaction, all your relationships are online, then why don't digital countries start to have their own sovereignty? It's a really interesting concept.
Wow.
I'm going to fill you in on that one. Maybe you'll find that one interesting.
Well, Matt, you'll be in charge. You'll be president of the new digital country, or But Matt, you have to admit, the movie Matrix, which I believe was like 1990. I mean, that's like 35 years ago. I mean, think about how prescient that was. The red pill or blue pill. How often do you hear red pill? I mean, that was. That was Neo being offered, the truth. And then people plugging into that. Remember, they got plugged into their neck? That sounds like Elon Musk's Neuralink, doesn't it? It sounds just like it. And then being in the Matrix, where people are virtually doing this stuff and fighting in the Matrix. I mean, it really was prescient. I think that
so crazy,
I think
isn't it?
Matrix was a breakthrough movie.
It's one of my favorites. We reference it on the show all the time because we say Matrix wasn't a movie; it was a documentary.
Oh wow!
That's
Wow.
what we say.
Well, and sometimes through this whole pandemic as a doctor, I felt so alone. There's 1 million doctors out there, and we think maybe 500 doctors carried the whole country during the pandemic.
Yes.
And this 1 million doctors took all these vaccines. Their kids took all the vaccines. Their patients, there's blood clots, myocarditis, cardiac arrest, and people like me, because I didn't take the COVID shots. I've been attacked relentlessly by Medscape and all these medical entities. I kind of feel like Neo, and I'm in the Matrix. And do you remember that movie where he's fighting and Mr. Anderson sends another one and another one and another one, but then Mr. Anderson goes, more, and they throw it, and Neo's just spinning around, just knocking him out. That's Keanu Reeves. I kind of feel like Keanu Reeves. Just I'm fighting off more and more of these guys in the Matrix.
If you want to see more of the medical Neo, we will leave links to all of Dr. Peter McCullough stuff right here. And Dr. Peter McCullough, thank you so much for coming on the show. I really appreciate you. I always appreciate your perspective. And we're going to have to do this once kind of the more information comes out about what's coming on. We're going to have you on again very soon.
Well, thank you so much for your journalism. Be sure to follow me at Peter McCullough, MD. That'll take you everywhere. My podcast, McCullough Report on America Out Loud News. My Substack, Courageous Discourse. Support McCullough Foundation, Investigative Research, McCulloughFND.org. Everywhere like you, Matt. It's like I can't do the Matt attack, but I'm going to be relentlessly pursuing the truth. Thank you for having me on the show.